Hello, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We are the Group 1, the 7th Presenter, and we will be discussing about the novel Noli Tángere, written by Dr. Jose Rizal.
Good day, everyone. Today I'll be talking about Noli Tángere, a novel written by Dr. Jose P. Rizal. He wrote it to expose the abuses of Spanish colonial authorities in the Philippines during the 19th century. Rizal was inspired by Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, which he used fiction to reveal the injustices of slavery. In the same way, he wanted to use a story to show the suffering of ordinary Filipinos under colonial rule. The title of the novel comes from a passage in the Bible, John chapter 20 verse 17, where Jesus tells Mary Magdalene, "Do not touch me." In Latin, this is translated as Noli Tángere, symbolizing how sensitive and delicate the issues addressed in the book were at the time. Rizal began writing the novel in Madrid, Spain, and he received support and encouragement from his friends, including the Paterno brothers and Graciano Lopez Jaena, who were fellow reformists and intellectuals. Historical and social context. To understand why Rizal wrote the novel, we need to look at the historical and social context. At the time, the Philippines was under Spanish colonization, and many Filipinos suffered from abuse and oppression, especially from friars and government officials. Rizal's European education exposed him to liberal and reformist ideas, which greatly influenced the themes of the novel. His goal was not just to entertain readers, but to awaken Filipino consciousness and promote social and political reforms peacefully, using literature as a tool for change. Now let's talk about the publication of the novel. The first half of Noli Tángere was written in Madrid between 1884 and 1885, while Rizal was studying medicine. Later, the second half was completed in Germany in 1887, written gradually as he refined his ideas. The novel was published in Berlin, Germany, because Rizal could not safely publish it in the Philippines or Spain due to the risk of censorship or punishment by Spanish authorities. He also received financial support from a man named Viola, who paid 300 pesos for the first 2,000 copies, and guidance from his friends, which helped him complete the work. Finally, the novel had a profound impact on Philippine society. Noli Tángere exposed social injustices and became a catalyst for reform movements. The title itself reflects the sensitive and controversial issues it addressed, and Rizal intended the novel as a peaceful call for change, not immediate revolution. The work also shows his careful planning, research, and literary skill, which is why it remains a landmark in Philippine literature even today.
So I'll be discussing the plot of the Noli Tángere. First is the exposition or the beginning of the story. The story takes place in the Philippines during Spanish colonization. Captain Tiago hosted a dinner to welcome Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, which is the main character of this novel, who returns home after 7 years of studying in Europe. Ibarra learns from Lieutenant Guevara that his father, Don Rafael, died in prison after being falsely accused by Padre Damaso. Ibarra meets his fiancée, Maria Clara, which is the daughter of Captain Tiago, and begins to see and realize how corrupt both the church and the government is. Next is the rising action. Ibarra travels to San Diego, his hometown, and decides to build a secular school to fulfill his father's dream of educating the youth. Then, during his time sa San Diego, he witnesses kung unsa giabuso sa mga friars ang ilahang authority, especially Padre Damaso and Padre Salve, who control education and manipulate the townspeople. Then, the story of Sisa and her sons Crispin and Basilio exposes how cruel and injustice the clergy are. Then, Ibarra discovers that Padre Damaso ordered his father's body to be exhumed and thrown into a lake. During the town fiesta, Elias warns Ibarra of a plan to kill him. Elias saves Ibarra's life, revealing that he has hidden enemies. Next is the climax of this novel. At a dinner celebration, Padre Damaso insults Ibarra's father, calling him a criminal. Enraged, Ibarra attacks Damaso and nearly kills him, but Maria Clara stops him. Ibarra then was excommunicated by the church because of him attacking Damaso. Then, Captain Tiago cancels his engagement to Maria Clara, forcing her to marry Linares. Next is the following action. Padre Salve and Locas framed Ibarra as the leader of a rebellion. Ibarra then is arrested and imprisoned, but Elias rescues him and helps him escape. Before leaving, Ibarra secretly visits Maria Clara, who confesses that she was blackmailed into giving up his letter. She then reveals that Padre Damaso is her real father and decides to enter a convent instead of marrying Linares. The last one is the resolution or the end of the story. Elias and Ibarra flee in a boat. When they are chased, Elias sacrifices himself so that Ibarra can escape. On Christmas Eve, Basilio finds his dying mother Sisa and meets the wounded Elias, who tells him to burn their bodies together. Then Elias dies, hoping that the Philippines will one day gain freedom. Then the novel ends with Ibarra's fate unknown, leaving a sense of unfinished struggle and hope for the nation. Next are the themes of the novel. So there are 4 themes that is presented and shown in the novel. The first theme is colonialism, religion, and power. So this theme is presented in the novel by revealing how Spanish friars used religion to gain power, control the people, and maintain colonial dominance. The second theme is reform and revolution. So in the novel, Rizal contrasts Ibarra's peaceful reform with Elias' call for revolution, showing the struggle between patience and resistance under oppression. The third theme is education. In the novel, education is portrayed as a path to enlightenment and freedom, but the friars suppress it to keep the people ignorant and submissive. The last theme is isolation. In the novel, it shows how political, religious, and intellectual isolation weakens individuals and communities, stressing the need for unity to achieve change.
Now, let's proceed to the characters of Noli Me Tangere. These characters are the most important in Noli Me Tangere. They are the characters who had significant contributions to the narrative of the novel. Let's begin with Juan Crisostomo Ibarra y Magsalin, or who we know as Ibarra. He is generally considered to be one of the most memorable characters in the narrative. A son of Don Rafael Ibarra, a respected wealthy Filipino. After 7 years of studying sa Europe, nang-return siya sa Pilipinas. He intends to build a school to help educate the youth. And para ma-fulfill niya ang aspirations and ideals sa iyahang papa. But he becomes caught in church issues and forced to flee the city by Father Salve. Ibarra transforms from a reformist into a fugitive by the end. Next character is Maria Clara. This beautiful young lady is the girlfriend of Crisostomo Ibarra. She is the legal daughter of Capitan Tiago, but biologically Padre Damaso's child. Maong si Padre Damaso ang biological father ni Maria Clara, it's because iyang gi-rape ang mother ni Maria Clara. Nagdako siya sa konbento. She is deeply religious and modest. After mawala ni Ibarra, kay si Maria Clara, ni-choose na lang siya nga mo-enter sa konbento. Maria Clara's character is related to Rizal's childhood sweetheart, Leonor Rivera. She symbolizes the purity and innocence of a sheltered native woman. Padre Damaso Verdolagas. So, mao ni siya ang biological father ni Maria Clara. He is a powerful Franciscan friar and former parish priest of San Diego. Kani siya kayang giuse ang simbahan para ma-maintain niya ang control over sa mga Pilipino. Maunang ang mga Pilipino kay gitawag siya as inferior. Kani siya pud ang pinaka-cause sa downfall ni Ibarra, ang pinaka-main antagonist sa tanan. Kani pud si Father Damaso kay ang responsible sa pagpatay sa amahan ni Ibarra nga si Don Rafael Ibarra. He is known for having no shame. Father siya pero ang iyang binuhatan kay dili pang padre. Nang rape siya tapos nagpatay pa gid and then mangruin pa gid siya og lives sa mga disrespect niya. Very cruel kaayo sa tanan. Another character is Padre Bernardo Salve. So he is the replacement of priest of San Diego after Padre Damaso. He is physically weak but mentally cunning. So kani siya kay pare-pareha ra gihapon og batasan ni Padre Damaso. Mga priest unta pero ang batasan naambot lang. Kani pod si Padre Salve kay obsessed kaayo ni Maria Clara. His most significant role in the novel comes through his plot to ruin Ibarra, who is engaged sa iyang naibgan nga si Maria Clara. So ayang gibuhat kay iyang gimanipulate ang mga authorities para i-frame si Ibarra for rebellion. He is silent but deadly corruption. He is silent but deadly corrupt. Next is Elias. Elias is the mysterious friend of Ibarra who saved him multiple times. He also comes from a tragic background, which is his family was disgraced due to a false accusation. He believes the system is too broken to fix through peaceful reform. So he believes nga dili madala og peaceful reform ang system kay broken kayo sa tanan. Iya giyong gisacrifice ang iyahang life para lang matabangan si Ibarra nga mo-escape. Opposite ni Ibarra, he represents revolution and action. Third character is Sisa. She is the mother of Basilio and Crispin. She is a mistreated wife who puts up with her husband's beating and the fact that he is irresponsible, yet she continues to regard him as a god despite all of this. Iyang duha ka anak is regarded niya as her only treasure. Always gina niyang ginahuwat ang iyang mga anak to return from the church para makaprepare og meals nga ilahang paborito. Ug sa dihang ang iyang duha ka anak kay wala na nabalik sa ilaha, iya ginang gina-search hangtod sa mao na mura na siya og nabuang. Magwander na lang siya sa dalan. Ang iyahang buhok ug ang iyahang sanina kay antay di na kaayo. Unya wala na niya na-recognize ang iyahang anak nga si Basilio sa kadtong nagkamit sila. Let's proceed to Basilio and Crispin. So, mauni sila ang mga anak ni Sisa. Basilio is 10 years old and Crispin is 7 years old. Kaning duha kay nag-work as a sacristans or church assistants in the bell tower sa church in San Diego. So si Crispin kay na-accused of stealing. So he dies under mysterious, brutal circumstances. Basilio faced the dread of losing his brother and falling of his mother into insanity. So kani si Basilio kay iyahang na-witness ang suffering sa iyahang younger brother, and then later kay ni-escape siya after pud sa pagkamatay sa iyahang mother. Don Anastasio or Pilosopo Tasio. He is an old intelligent man known as the village philosopher. He studied philosophy but quit after his mother discouraged him. Became eccentric and spends most of his time reading and writing. So considered siya as a crazy person by the ordinary people. Pero sa mga educated people, kay gina-respect siya. He supports Ibarra and also supports reform through education and reason. Don Santiago de los Santos or Kapitan Tiago. Mauni siya ang legal father ni Maria Clara. He is a Filipino businessman and the cabeza de barangay or head of barangay of the town of San Diego. He is also said to be a good Catholic, friend of the Spanish government, and was considered as Spanish bi-colonialist. Let's proceed to Doña Victorina and Don Tiburcio de Espadania. Doña Victorina is an ambitious Filipina who classifies herself as a Spanish and mimics Spanish ladies by putting on heavy makeup. Mura siya og kanang suyaon nga dili makadawat sa kung unsa siya. She symbolizes those who have a distorted view of their identity. Don Tiburcio makes a living as a quack doctor. Kani si siya kay nagpretend nga naay medical skill, knowledge, or credentials nga wala man pud nila. na-possess. Ignorant pretender indeed. Alperes and Doña Consolacion. So they are husband and wife. Alperes shares rivalry with the priest, particularly Padre Salve, and frequently has violent fights with his wife. So, kani si Alferez o Padre Salve kay rivals, nag-ilog ni sila para sa power sa town of San Diego. So they are competing to control the town through their respective institutions, the Guardia Civil and the church. Doña Consolacion. So she is the wife of the Alferez of San Diego and often has violent arguments with her husband. Kani si Doña Consolacion kay ma-ashamed siya sa iyang gikanan. So, magpretend siya nga dili siya kahibalo mo Tagalog and often uses Spanish words bisan wala siya kabalo kung unsay meaning ana nga Spanish words. Doña Pia Alba, wife of Capitan Tiago. She is the biological mother of Maria Clara through Padre Damaso. So, mao ni siya ang katong gi-rape ni Padre Damaso. She is considered as a young, healthy, and beautiful woman. Also, a very spiritual woman, but dies giving birth to Maria Clara. So, Pia Alba is a symbol of the woman who, after suffering abuse at the hands of members of the priesthood, keep their experience to themselves out of shame. Tia Isabel. Tia Isabel is a cousin of Capitan Tiago. So after sa pagkamatay ni Doña Pia Alba kay kani siya is nitabang og pagpadako ni Maria Clara. She is a kind, caring, and traditional Filipino woman. So kani si Tia Isabel kay nagrepresent as a motherly and moral figure in Maria Clara's life. So loyal pud ni siya ni Capitan Tiago. Padre Hernando Sibayla. He is known for being intelligent, calm, and diplomatic, unlike Padre Damaso. He often polite but secretly critical of Ibarra's progressive ideas. So mauna, iyahang ipagita sa mga tao nga polite siya, nga maayo siya nga pagka-padre. Pero, secretly, nagmatsyag na siya sa progressive ideas ni Ibarra. Iyahang gitry ug maintain ang iyahang church authority without kanang mga cruel nga mga happenings or dili siya maging cruel. Padre Sibayla also represents the more intellectual but still controlling side of the clergy.
Now let's talk about the main ideas in the novel. These include social injustice and abuse of power, religion versus true faith, education is the key to freedom, nationalism and love for country, and the call for reform, not revolution. One of the central ideas in Noli is social injustice and abuse of power. Rizal used the novel to mirror the harsh realities of Filipino life during Spanish colonization, where the poor and powerless were constantly mistreated by those in authority. This idea is best seen through Sisa and her two sons, Crispin and Basilio. Crispin is accused of stealing church money without evidence and is brutally beaten by the sacristan mayor inside the church itself. This horrifying scene shows how the church, which was supposed to protect people, became an instrument of abuse. The Guardia Civil also symbolizes the government's corruption and cruelty. They abuse their authority, arrest people without cause, and even harm civilians just to please the friars. Through these events, Rizal exposes the deep injustice of colonial society, where the powerful manipulated both law and religion to control the weak. His goal was to awaken Filipinos to demand equality and human dignity. Another key idea in Noli Me Tangere is the conflict between religion and true faith. Rizal, who was deeply spiritual, respected religion, but he condemned the hypocrisy of friars who misuse it for power and wealth. Rizal wasn't attacking the church itself. He was criticizing the hypocrisy of certain friars who claimed to be holy but acted unjustly. He wanted Filipinos to realize that true faith means doing good and helping others, not just following blindly. The most striking example is Padre Damaso. He represents the arrogance and corruption of many friars at that time. He humiliates others publicly, interferes with families, and even destroys the relationship between Ibarra and Maria Clara by revealing that he is Maria Clara's real father. Another priest, Padre Salvi, uses his position to manipulate and lust after Maria Clara, showing how far religion had drifted from morality. Rizal also used the townspeople's blind obedience to show how religion was weaponized. Instead of teaching compassion and justice, friars taught fear and superstition to maintain control. Through these portrayals, Rizal's message becomes clear. Faith should lead to love, truth, and service, not oppression or fear. True Christianity is not about ceremonies or status. It is about living a life of goodness and conscience. Education as the key to freedom. Rizal believed that education was the most powerful weapon to achieve freedom. This idea runs deeply through Noli Me Tangere. The main character, Crisostomo Ibarra, returns from Europe full of hope and modern ideas. He dreams of building a school in San Diego to teach Filipino children not just religion but also science, language, and civic virtue. For Ibarra, education represents the light that can end the darkness of ignorance, a peaceful tool for progress. He believes that if Filipinos can think critically and learn the truth, they will no longer be enslaved by fear or manipulated by the church. However, his dream is destroyed by Padre Damaso, who opposes the project because the friars fear losing control over the people. This conflict symbolizes the struggle between enlightenment and oppression. Rizal's message is timeless. True freedom begins in the mind. When people are educated, they can no longer be easily deceived. That's why Rizal wrote the novel, to educate Filipinos about the reality and inspire change. Nationalism and love for country. The novel also explores the theme of nationalism and love for country. Rizal encouraged unity, courage, and patriotism among Filipinos. Through Ibarra and Elias, Rizal represents two kinds of patriots. Ibarra is the reformist. He believes in peaceful progress through education and cooperation. Elias, on the other hand, believes that revolution might be necessary if peaceful means fail. Their famous conversation by the lake reveals their shared love for the Philippines. Elias tells Ibarra that it may not be their generation that achieves freedom, but the next. And he sacrifices his life to save Ibarra, symbolizing his love for the country. Another moving symbol of nationalism is Maria Clara, whose purity and suffering present the Filipino nation, beautiful, faithful, yet oppressed. Rizal's message is that loving the country means working for justice, unity, and dignity. Nationalism is not just about fighting wars, it's about knowing our identity, respecting our people, and standing for what is right. Finally, Noli Me Tangere represents Rizal's call for reform, not revolution. This is a significant idea in the novel. Rizal believed that lasting change should come through peaceful reform, moral awakening, and education, rather than through violence. Ibarra's actions in the novel show this. He seeks to improve his town through education and civic development, not rebellion. However, Rizal also understood the pain of the oppressed. Through characters like Ilyas, he acknowledges that if reform continues to be denied, violence may eventually erupt. The novel ends with tragedy. Ibarra loses everything and is forced to flee. Yet his vision survives, symbolizing that ideas cannot be killed. Rizal wanted Filipinos to open their minds first before taking up arms. Ironically, even though he called for peaceful change, Noli Me Tangere still inspired revolutionaries like Andres Bonifacio, who read the novel and realized that reform alone was not enough. This shows how powerful Rizal's ideas were. They moved an entire generation to act. His legacy reminds us that the greatest revolution begins not in war, but in thought and moral courage. To conclude, Noli Me Tangere goes beyond storytelling. It represents the awakening of the Filipino mind and heart. Each idea, from justice to education and love for the country, teaches us values that are still relevant today. Rizal's goal was not just to criticize the past, but to inspire us to build a better, fairer, and freer nation.